Merry Christmas from the BartenderHQ.com podcast. On this week's show, we're talking about the CFS, the Central Flair Series, which is the newest Flair Series to hit the UK. We're talking about what's going on at Roadhouse next year. We're going to be talking a little bit about how to make the most of January coming up soon, refreshing your equipment and learning new skills. So, let's get on with this week's show.
Welcome to the BartenderHQ.com podcast. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at BartenderHQ. Here's your host, David Eden-Sangwell.
So guys, thank you for joining me once again for the BartenderHQ.com podcast, and happy Christmas. This episode was intended to be shot before Christmas, but everything's just got a little bit late, and you know how it is over Christmas. This kind of thing does happen. Things get away from you a little bit. But without further ado, I am delighted to announce that Bartender HQ with the West Midlands Flair Club will be hosting in 2016 the CFS, that is the Central Flair Series. Now, we are nowhere near as big as the Roadhouse. We are not trying to take anything away from the Roadhouse. That is the premier series in the UK. Huge competition, massive prestige attached to the Roadhouse, and we would never want to take anything away from that. However, we know that it is really difficult for a lot of bartenders to actually get down to Roadhouse every month with the distances and things, and also it's quite intimidating with the level of bartenders because Roadhouse attracts literally the best bartenders from around the world. This year just gone, Tom Dyer's final year actually competing at the Roadhouse, which is both horrendously upsetting, and also he went out with a hell of a bang with his bottle and tin routine at the finals. Absolutely stunning routine. If you've not seen that yet, you must have a look at it. I'll put a little bit of it on now to give you guys a bit of a taste, but he did an entire, I think it was an 8-minute routine purely of bottle and tin. I will link to it in the show notes. You've got to check out that routine. So the Roadhouse already doing a monthly competition. That's on the last Sunday of every month. Now, I mentioned Roadhouse has got some changes coming in 2016. Now, the main thing there is that the competition is now going to be hosted and organised by the WFA, that's the World Flair Association. Now, they are a huge group. We talked to Tom Dyer from the WFA in the past on the interviews. I'll again pop a link to that down in the show notes. But essentially, the WFA is becoming the kind of world leader for flair bartending. In the past, there was the FBA, the Flair Bartenders Association in the US. Not really much has happened with them recently, as far as I can tell. If you guys know any different and you're involved with the FBA, please get in touch because, I mean, they were the guys that were organising back in the day the Legends competition and the Quest for the Best, which were the two huge competitions back in the old school days in the US. Not heard a huge amount from them recently. If they've still got events going on, I would love to know about them. So let us know in the comments or through the Facebook page, or just drop me a tweet. But we are launching on the first Monday of the month, so we'll be after Roadhouse. We won't be trying to clash with it or anything like that. Occasionally we're going to be literally one day later, but in general it's going to be maybe a week after because of the way that the days fall within the months. But our first event is going to be the 1st of February 2016. We are hosting it at Reflex Arcadian, which is where I work at the moment. That's in the centre of Birmingham. We've got hotels next door. We're literally 5 minutes walk from the Central Railway Station, the New Street Station, which has just had a huge overhaul and is a hell of a site actually nowadays. So why are we launching a new Flair series? Now, we want to do a monthly event. We want to make it as easy as possible for bartenders to enter, regardless of whether they are brand new to Flair bartending or whether it's something that they've been doing for years. And we also want to help support bartenders from around the Midlands because Manchester gets a huge amount of attention and we'd love to have as many Manchester bartenders down as possible as well. London gets a huge amount of attention, and obviously overseas in New York and Las Vegas, they've got huge bartender communities there. But Birmingham doesn't seem to get as much recognition perhaps. So for Birmingham bartenders and bartenders in the surrounding counties, so Staffordshire, Warwickshire and that kind of thing, there's also extra support for those bartenders and a bit of a league that's going to run for bartenders who haven't got to travel quite so far. So we will be having the league that runs monthly with prizes at the end of the year. We're also going to have a novice category because we want to support new bartenders coming into Flair and bartenders that want to learn to Flair. So if you've been bartending less than a year, you will you will qualify for our novice category, which means that you'll be eligible for a specific prize only open to those in that novice category. You'll be in the main competition as well, and you've got every opportunity to win the overall competition, or if you're a Midlands bartender as well, you'll also be added to the Flair League, but you get an extra little potential prize if you are a novice bartender, been bartending less than 1 year. Now, the other thing that's made the CFS a little bit different from the majority of competitions is we are aiming that you will not need to bring any bottles with you for the competition. So all you'll need to bring along with you is your Flair tins and any practice bottles that you want to use. But we're working to talk to a few sponsors at the moment. We're just working out the final details, and the idea is that everyone will use exactly the same bottles. Now, the advantage of that is that, again, you've not got to lug your bottles over from your bar, you've not got to collect your bottles, you've not got to prepare your bottles, bring your pour spouts, all that sort of thing. Everything will be set up, the bar will be set exactly the same for every bartender, so your exhibition Flair bottles will be there with the pour spouts, with the right amount of liquid in there, and we will send out an image of exactly what this bar setup is going to look like. So you will get essentially a completely fresh bar ready to go as you walk onto the bar. You will then have 2 minutes to actually set the bar up the way that you want. So pop your tins out. If you want to move any of those bottles around, that's absolutely fine. And then your time will start 2 minutes after you set foot on that bar. Now, this is for the bartenders. Obviously, it helps because you haven't got to collect all those bottles. You're not going to prep all of it. You're not going to transport everything to us. But from the audience point of view, I found that a lot of Flair competitions tend to kind of drag on, and the times between bartenders gets longer and longer. So to make sure that this is the best possible show for our audience, because without an audience, what's the point in Flair bartending? We just want to make it as fluid as possible during the night. Then we can get the competition done with, and everyone can have a cool party afterwards. So that's kind of the overview of it. If you want to find out any more details, go to BartenderHQ on Facebook, and you will find there is a link there to the event page, and we will host through that all of the rules and everything else. It's going to be very cheap for the bartenders to enter. I think it's going to be £5 per person to enter. There will be prizes at the end. We're looking at about £100 for the top place, 25 for second place, plus what we can get from the sponsors in terms of bottles and that kind of thing, to make it a bit more fun. So it's not a hugely lucrative competition to enter, but it's more to get the atmosphere going and have a good time. And if it evolves over the months, all the better, and we will get better prizes as and when we can. So with January coming, obviously we're getting through our busy phase now. We've made it through Christmas. Congratulations, bartenders, you have done well. The only big one left to do is New Year's Eve, so looking forward to that night. But then in January, especially in the UK, I'm not sure if this is the case in the US, but we have a thing called Dryathlon that happens, which is for cancer research. A lot of people give up alcohol for the month of January. A lot of people were doing it anyway for New Year's resolutions and that sort of thing, so it's not a huge issue, not a massive new thing, but it's a little bit more high profile, so just make sure you've got enough non-alcoholic drinks available for your customers. Make sure you've got mocktail menus set up if that suits your bar, and I'll include a link in the show notes to our article that we did a year or so ago about how to make sure you've got the best possible non-alcoholic menu for your non-drinkers. Now, the other things you can obviously be doing in January is improving your knowledge. So if you've not picked it up yet, our ebook, which is Memorising Cocktails the Easy Way, is of course available, and it's a great time in January when you're a little bit quieter behind the bar to refresh your knowledge, make sure you're bang up to date on the coolest drinks that are going on. So you can pick that up through our website. It's $17, not a massive amount of money, and I'd love to hear your feedback on it. The other things that you can be doing is obviously learning a new skill. So if you're not into your Flair bartending already, if you're in the Midlands, come and see us at the West Midlands Flair Club, and we'd love to get you into that novice category for the CFS. And then also, if you're looking to get some new equipment going on, go to BartenderHQ.com/bar products, and you can shop the entire barproducts.com range there, and also give us a little bit of a taste of that. It doesn't cost you any more, but it helps to support the show. So the other thing that you can do in January is pick a brand new spirit that you're going to learn about. A lot of bartenders kind of get stuck into one spirit or something along those lines, and they'll recommend drinks based on what they're interested in. Now, as bartenders, we should know a whole range of different spirits, and we should be able to recommend drinks based on different ones. So if there's a spirit in your arsenal that you're neglecting a little bit, maybe January is a great time to pick up a cocktail book, flip over to that section. So say you're not huge on tequila cocktails, flip through a whole bunch of tequila stuff, grab yourself a bottle, make a bunch of cocktails one night, and try out something new. Add something new to your repertoire, your customers will appreciate it, and you'll make better tips. So that'll do us for this week's BartenderHQ.com podcast. On the next show, we're going to be looking at the cocktail trends of 2015 and a little bit of a prediction for 2016. So join us for that next week.
Thanks for listening to the BartenderHQ.com podcast. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at BartenderHQ.